Life is not a stage, it's a soup, and we're already in it.
What if the fact that you are here is already meaningful?
I've started to realize that, like, operating on the assumption that, like, I'm the thrown ground of a nullity and I'm basically building meaning on nothing has not been very helpful to me. Because, like, it's almost like this pressure to, like, do stuff. Like, this weight of, like, if you don't do it, then your life is basically meaningless.
It's actually much more psychologically healthy, but also philosophically fruitful to say, I'm good. We're okay. I've achieved the hard task of meaning just by being me. We're busting philosophy out of the old stuffy lecture hall and setting it loose on the world of creativity. Join us as we explore the unwritten aesthetic.
Happy birthday to you. No, I'm not gonna sing the whole thing. Unless you want me to.
Marilyn Monroe, who?
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Well, thank you very much. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Unwritten Aesthetic. Lauren, as always, it's so fabulous and lovely to see you.
Likewise.
We are in between birthdays on this episode, both Lauren and I. Are you a Libra or a Virgo? You're a Libra.
Yes.
Okay, so Lauren's birthday is in a few days, and my birthday was a few days ago, so we are kind of reflecting on that and the fact that, like, we're literally in quarter life. Like, we have hit
if we're lucky, quarter life.
Yeah, if we're lucky, quarter life. And a lot of changes happen at this time, and also, like, a lot of people that I think previously weren't thinking about, like, existentialism, this is the time in their life when they tend to start thinking about it. So there's a lot of, like, philosophical things that come up with this topic, and I think both of us deal with those in creative ways. So when you said this is something we could chat about, I was like, that's actually a perfect entree into the podcast, because it's like, this very much for me is like a creative way to talk about the anxiety of existentialism philosophically.
The anxiety of just existing.
Yeah, the anxiety of existing. So I think that's kind of what we're gonna dive into today. But what first made you want to explore this as a topic for the podcast specifically?
I mean, like you said, approaching my, almost having completed 25 years on this big rock flying through space, I just naturally have been thinking about, like, not really in detail, like propositionally, these are the things I've learned over the years, and, but just kind of, vaguely pondering some of the things I've learned, and, like, more recently, some of the, I guess I've been treating it more like a New Year's resolution sort of thing. Like, what are habits that I want to get rid of? Like, approaching this next, hopefully, quarter of my life. And what are some habits that I want to implement,
Yeah.
It's kind of a big topic, so I was like, before we logged on, I was like, oh, I feel like I haven't prepared anything, but I don't know, I just thought it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Cool to talk about.
Yeah. No, I love it. And it is a big topic. So I think it'll be interesting to see, like, where conversation takes us. But I like what you said about it being kind of a New Year's resolution, because I definitely feel that way too. Like, birthdays, one, I think I'm lucky, or we're both kind of lucky that our birthdays are a little bit later than halfway through the year, but, like, pretty much halfway through the year. And also, like, right before the holidays and right before, like, the final kind of push. So I feel like it's always a good time to pause and reflect. Um, and birthdays are your own personal new year. You know, it's like
Yeah,
it
that's
is
true.
very much this is my new year for me, and there's something really magical about that. But also, I think in a more collective sense, there has been a lot of like in the energy of what's happening right now. Like you said, it's like a New Year's resolution thing, but also like in the quarters of your life, it's also, okay, what were the first 25 like? What do I want for the next 25 in a broader, bigger sense? I think we're kind of hitting that collectively too. And of course, in spiritual communities, we're hearing so many people talk about like the global awakening that's happening, and we are
I feel like
seeing
they've been saying that for years.
forever. Yeah, this is true. But I feel like there is something kind of like that in the air.
Mm.
But also in like a more philosophical and not quite as like spiritual sense, um, I think we're seeing really radical shifts in the way we are doing and performing life, like the technological
Yeah.
revolution that we're in, but also like political revolutions. This last month, I want to say like 3 different governments have toppled, um,
Yeah.
which has been interesting to say the least. I'm not up to date or informed about um any of them, so I don't want to,
Me neither.
say opinion about like the positives or negatives of it, but there's shifts and changes happening for sure. And we were both born in 1999, so we're kind of like right at like we age along with the age too, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm sure everyone could say that, you know? But, like, I'm sure if I was born in, like, I don't know, the 2010s or like, the 50s, I don't know, anytime there's like, you're the witness of changes and shifts happening on a much larger level, but I do agree with you that, like, we we lived in a time before cell phones were really, like, a thing, like, before smartphones were a thing, and so it's like we're part of it, but we're also kind of witnessing it
Yeah.
from like, we're in it, but it's also sort of an outside perspective of, like, just in virtue of remembering what it was like before that, and, especially with technology, I would agree with you that it's, like,
Yeah.
it's very weird to witness. I really can't talk today, I don't know what's wrong with
It's okay.
my ability to enunciate my words, but, yeah, it's a crazy time.
It is. Well, and I think too on the technology and like what we grew up with piece, it's interesting because usually you'll hear people say like, I grew up in an age without smartphones and without social media. And then you have people that are like, oh, and y'all are growing up with iPad kids, right? And we are situated in the middle of that where like I didn't have a cell phone till middle school and I didn't have an iPhone till 8th grade, I want to say. And that was the first time I got social media. And so, of course, there were other kids that had smartphones and social media before I did, that it was just more like my parents wanting to have stronger boundaries with me. But at the same time, it was like middle school for us when it
No,
was
yeah.
happening. So
I
we,
think I got it at like 7th. I think I first got Instagram in like 7th grade or
yeah.
something. Um,
And when
hmm.
Facebook was first around, you had to be like 16 to have it, I want to say. And so
Yeah.
we would have had to lie about our age to have a Facebook. And I know I had some friends that did do that, but I didn't do, it's like we were coming into our own as these things were becoming part of the cultural zeitgeist. But like we still, like I still had the play outside till in your neighborhood till sunset and then go home for dinner vibe, but then I also had the going to high school in the age of social
Yeah.
media. So it's this interesting combination of like the zillennialness of it all. Even though we're technically Gen Z, there is something still that we have this tie to that, like you said, we remember before. We remember what happened before. I had things on
Yeah.
floppy disks when I was
Oh,
little.
shit.
Yeah, like there was a computer game that I had that I loved that was some old computer game and it was on a floppy disk, you know?
Damn. See, I remember like I used to burn CDs with my mom a
Yeah,
lot. Like
yeah.
we would make like our own CDs and I thought that was so cool. Also, did you ever have a leapfrog?
Oh, hell yes.
That shit was so much fun. I remember I had a Cinderella game on there where like you would tie, it was like I think it was like the mouse with the thread or whatever, like to practice cursive letters. It was
Oh,
something so cute.
cute.
I fucked with
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Um
Well, and the leapfrog was like a little iPad for kids, but not an education based.
oh, I
Am I
mean
thinking
I
the same thing? I had like a
yeah, I
little
think
thing
so.
that was like this, that was
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
little
yeah.
leapfrog. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
those were great.
interesting. So, as
Hmm.
your 25th year is coming to a close, what are the big things that you are wanting to like keep and release?
So much. So much.
Yeah.
And you might this is like a recent realization I've had like on Tuesday. So like 3 days ago that I had that maybe you'll find interesting because um I study philosophy and there are definitely aspects of it that I internalize and I'm starting to realize that sometimes philosophical ideas that I find interesting or sound in theory actually negatively affect my life in practice and that might not be a
Interesting.
universal thing but the one that I've discovered recently is this existentialist idea found in Heidegger and Sartre as well, that like uh human beings are like the thrown ground of a nullity. Is like how Heidegger describes it, which is basically like we're thrown into this world, nobody asks to be born, yet we are here, and it's almost like there's nothing in this thrown existence that can justify or explain our being thrown into it. Like we basically have to create the meaning and purpose um, of our own volition, you know?
Yeah.
And that can be a very empowering idea. But I've started to realize that like operating on the assumption that like I'm the thrown ground of a nullity and I'm basically building meaning on nothing has not been very helpful to me because
Hmm.
like it's almost like this pressure to like do stuff, like this weight of like if you don't do it then your life is basically meaningless. And like so I'd like to shift my perspective from this ambitious striving in a sense of like I'm climbing a mountain and I'm or like climbing stairs basically forever
Right.
to more like floating amidst the soup of things. And me, like, ambition in that sort of picture would be just like I'm floating in the soup of things and I can like embrace things. And if they don't work or I don't succeed, it's not like a reflection of me being kicked down the staircase. It's just like I embrace things and if they don't work, just like releasing them. But I'm still in the
Mm.
same soup of things. Like all the possibilities of my life aren't just like floating in nothing. They're all kind of like collapsed into a single plane. So
Yeah.
everything is in reach. Like I can't fail in that sense because everything's already here. And
Mm-hmm.
if I fail, it's just like, I don't know, it takes away the idea of life as um like a sort of like I have to produce something. I have to like make
Yeah.
something up. It like it's how you wrote in your thesis, like, remember when you just being here was enough, and remember when that stopped. Um, and I feel like trying to keep that in mind, like that just being here is enough, um, is actually that will actually aid me in being more successful in my ambitions
Yeah.
because like the meaning is already there.
Right.
Um, and so me doing things like there's no like fear of failure if it's just seen as like embracing and releasing things.
Right.
It's not an idea I've fully worked out yet, but it's just like I I would like to start thinking from that perspective of like
Yeah.
I'm already there, like I'm already whole. Like I'm not building off of nothing. I'm not chasing meaning and trying to like become something. But like I'm already here. And
Yeah.
I don't I don't know. I don't know if I'm sold on it yet, but so far I'm like, I would like to give that mindset a try and start thinking of like myself as like already full in that sort of existential sense and see how that takes me.
I adore that.
Oh,
I
cool.
think oh, cool.
Yes.
I think it's interesting.
Excuse me for a second.
Yes.
Yes.
That was silly. That was
One
really
silly.
silly.
One moment, please. Yes. Reese likes my idea. Okay, play. Cool. No, I'm sorry. I'm being so silly. It's like 10 p.m. here. I'm being kind of silly.
So silly. No, I love it. I love it. But
I really love how I did the same joke like 4 times.
No, it's good. It gets
you
funnier.
Know that, yeah, it gets funnier every time.
It gets funnier every time.
Oh God. Okay.
But
sorry.
No apologies. When you first started framing it, at first I was like, this sounds really different than what I think. Like, is Lauren going on like a different, are we like splitting in, because usually we really, in this existentialist kind of leaning sense, we're pretty aligned. And so I was like, is this like a difference there? But I think what I realized as you were talking is that it's not necessarily about our difference in like, you can't, correct me if I'm wrong, but we both agree on the reality of the thrown ground of a nullity, because like, it's true in the sense that there really isn't an inherent explanation for what or why or how. And so it's actually in the process of meaning making that this pressure of like achieving some sort of meaning arises. And I really relate to what you're saying in this like Sisyphean?
Oh,
Sisyphean task.
Oh,
yeah, I think it's Sisyphean.
That would be my intuition, yeah.
Okay. Sisyphean task of meaning making being something that's
exactly what I had in my head too. And I was like explaining like describing it as climbing the stairs. I was thinking like Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the mountain.
That which is very Camus, right? That this creates a pressure for like, and even if the boulder falls down, like you must keep pushing. And there is something in that is like also like I can hear the like capitalist underpinnings of like production in that, which is interesting too. And undoing that pressure and starting from a place of just being enough, like what if, because I totally agree with what you're saying. And in my mind, the way that I kind of conceptualize of what you're talking about is, okay, if we're starting from the thrown ground of a nullity, what if the fact that you are here is already meaningful?
Mm-hmm.
And then we move from there, right? It's not like you need to do anything or produce anything to make meaning. Inherently, the way that human beings be, like being in and of itself, is meaning making. And therefore, in the same way, like being is becoming and becoming is being, you can't separate those two. And therefore, it's actually much more psychologically healthy, but also philosophically fruitful to say, I'm good. Like, we're okay. I've achieved the hard task of meaning just by being me. Like, I am already worth something. There is meaning here. I am meaningful in that existing is already full of meaning. Now I can move from there in this kind of iterative creative process that continues to make meaning, but in a more expansive sense that isn't like there's no pressure to like make life your magnum opus. It's like, okay, we've already done, it's like, what do you write after you publish the New York Times bestselling book? What's the next one? That's kind of what we're on.
There has to be like a next one, right?
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, like, the ontological idea of, like, being the thrown ground of a nullity, I think, makes sense. Like, in the sense that we can never unanimously answer the question of why we are here. And, again, there are aspects of this idea that are very fruitful. Like this idea that like if we're each the arbiters of meaning in our lives, then that means that like the life path that I choose is just as valid as the one you choose, or someone who's like a completely different path, and like religion, culture, whatever, as long as it doesn't infringe on other people's ability to like capitalize on their freedom, you know?
Right,
This is an
right.
idea we've visited before. But yeah, I feel like it's really easy to take that idea like, oh, the mode of being that we are as human beings is like we exist as the thrown ground of a nullity. It's really easy to jump from that to like, or like to read that in a very isolating, like individualistic light, you know, is
Yeah.
like I have to do it all by myself. And at least for me, it's been really isolating because like
Yeah.
like loneliness is something I've really struggled with lately, especially in the times where like I don't have classes and I'm like writing my papers and stuff. And it's like I feel like I've been really afraid of like taking risks and actually doing the things that I want to do, either because it's like I'm afraid of failure or like rejection or something, but just like submitting to, like we were talking about last time, like submitting papers to journals or whatever, or like yesterday I was on a run and I saw like a ceramics studio and I was like, y'all got classes? And at first I walked up and I like took a picture of the sign and I was like, I'm gonna call tomorrow and see if they have classes. And then I ran away and I was like, Lauren, what the hell? Like, the door's open, people are inside, just go in and ask. The worst they can say is like, what are you doing? Get out. You know, like, no, this is, you can't take this class. So I went in and I was like, y'all got classes here? They were like, yeah. Like, they were kind of like, yeah. You can like go to this website and see. There's like a wait list or something. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, but just like actually doing, because like, if you don't see your life as like a striving, climbing the mountain, then like a failure to check off one of those tasks is not like a failure. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like the means to the end, that particular means didn't achieve the end, but that doesn't mean like that you failed, you
Yeah.
know? Because it's
Yeah.
like just making the effort towards like, what's really important to you? Is it completing the task of calling the ceramic studio and seeing if they have classes so you can check it off your to-do list? Or is it finding a community, finding a space to practice art with other people, to like get to know other people and build a community in the city you're living in, you know? Like
Right.
that's the end goal. It's not about this particular ceramic studio even. And so I feel like seeing myself as existing amidst the soup of things already and just like embracing and releasing things, um like it I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'll be like more gentle to
Yeah.
myself, you know, and not like, oh man, I failed, like I'm never gonna find people to do art with in this, you know. I don't know if
Right.
I explained that well, but that's
No, I absolutely hear you, and I love the shift to like gentleness with the self, because I think that that really is this big shift of like, when, at least this is something I've been really thinking about, but when you feel purpose or calling so strongly, one thing that I struggle with is feeling like I'm big enough to hold
mm,
this thing that I feel called to. And therefore, the like demons in my head or whatever step in and start saying, you need to do more, you need to be more, you need to
yeah,
push
yeah.
harder, you need to go faster, you need to do all these things because this thing is so big. So you need to catch up to that thing, as
Yes.
opposed to pausing and saying, like, you already feel the thing. It is already a part of you. You're already swimming in the soup of the thing.
Yeah.
So swim,
Yeah, just swim,
right?
and not necessarily toward like a destination. I mean, yes, like
Yeah,
it's not, in saying this, I'm not saying like, oh, just don't, like you already feel the calling and that's enough, so you don't actually need to pursue it.
right.
Like in a sense, yeah, you don't have to, but uh like
I would
feeling
argue if
like you
you
don't
feel
have
like,
to lets you pursue it
yes,
like in a
yes.
more like Like, I feel like no great human being ever achieved greatness just because they felt this anxious compulsion to complete tasks because they were worried that they were the thrown ground of a nullity. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Oh, I
Maybe
love
some,
that.
but
Maybe
like
someone.
to let
Uh,
your passion kind of like drive you forward instead of that fear of
yes.
not doing enough. And
And I
like,
think,
I know this is something that like you and I have in common in terms of being like very ambitious people with like big aspirations. And yeah. So I don't know. Um
yeah. No, I really agree. And I think too with this idea of like what you're saying about you already feel this calling, like to take the pressure off of you don't have to do it. I do think in some sense, like if you feel like you can't or like you won't do the calling, then it's not the type of calling we're talking about. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I think that this type of calling is something that it's like, you can't help but not move in the direction of it.
yeah.
So when you take the bumpers or the expectations or the pressure off, then you can find ease along the path and you can take the detours and the scenic route, you know,
Yeah, you
as
can
a
take the scenic route.
as opposed
Yeah.
to like what's the shortest and quickest way possible to the thing, which actually is more stifling to the thing than thinking, oh, I'm not trying to get anywhere. I'm just trying
Mhm.
to be with it.
Yeah.
Um And I think the community piece is really important too, actually, because I think this feeling only flourishes when it's in community. And I think that loneliness is something that a lot of people that feel this type of calling that we're talking about probably experience because it can feel like I'm the only person in the world who feels this.
Yeah.
And in some sense, sometimes I'll wear that kind of like a little badge of honor that it's like there is something like special about me that I feel this calling. And on one hand, I'm like, yes, you are the one. But also, I believe that everyone is the one, you know?
Mm.
And therefore,
Mhm.
when you find community with people who speak this same language, even if they use a different vocabulary to do so, it flourishes because then you're in the soup together and you could like take a little taste of their soup and they can take a taste of your soup and
Yeah.
maybe you decide you want to throw some rosemary in yours
Yeah,
and
you
they
can
want to
like
throw some
it gets all
thyme in theirs.
ratatouille up in there. You can
Yeah,
like
let's
sprinkle
get ratatouille up in this
some
bitch.
herbs. That's what philosophy
Yeah.
essentially is. It's just
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's
yeah.
beautiful. And so one thing that keeps coming up for me as we've been talking is I've been playing around with this new definition of purpose because I think the purpose, which this ties into some of the like more conventional stuff around the idea of a quarter life crisis too. Um because I think, you know, we've talked about like the conveyor belt before and how uh like Alan Watts has the dance of life talk that he gives where he says like as a kindergartner you're plopped on this conveyor belt and you're told work hard so that you can go to first grade where you need to work hard so you can get into second grade or you need to work hard so that in elementary school you do well so that you can get into middle school where you need to work hard so that you can get into a good high school where you need to work hard so you can get into a good college so you get a good job so you can provide for your family so that you can work your way up in the company so that you can and then one day you're happy, right?
Yeah.
And so it's very much this like lie of purpose that we've been sold is that there's one that says like make money, provide, settle down, have a family, reproduce, that's purpose. Then we also have this other dimension of purpose that is like whatever your calling is on earth. And sometimes there's this purpose anxiety of people who are even more like predisposed to think like we do have this other thing that we're kind of talking about that is like this pressure to perform your purpose, this pressure
Yeah.
to be like big enough for your purpose, to
Mm.
achieve your purpose. And I was really, really struggling with this. And still do. I don't think you obviously can't like snap your fingers and be done. But I was like, when I actually think of this swimming in the soup of meaning and making meaning, it doesn't, that in and of itself doesn't make me feel scared. That doesn't make me feel like I'm not enough. that doesn't make me feel like I'm behind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that make me feel like I'm behind and not enough and scared and little and um not being my fullest self, like you were saying, of moving from a place of already being whole. And so I concocted a definition of false purpose and true purpose. It's still kind of working, but I'll throw it out there and see what you think. It's also really funny. I wrote it down in this tiny notebook that my grandma gave me. But on the front it says, "The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy." Psalm 126:3.
You heard it here first,
You
folks.
heard it here.
Or maybe you haven't.
You heard
if
it in
you've read
Psalms first, probably.
Yeah, Psalms said it first, but
Okay, but there's five elements of both, and they mirror each other. So and this relates to what you were saying about community too. So where false purpose tells you you need to be isolated, true purpose breeds connection. Where false purpose keeps you fixed in that it's one purpose, true purpose is ever evolving with you. Where false purpose causes anxiety, making you feel like you always need to be doing more, true purpose causes curiosity, making you excited to keep learning. False purpose tells you need to be productive to create something. True purpose exists outside of value. There's nothing inherently good or bad. False purpose is the thing that makes you worthy, that gives you your worth. True purpose owns the fact that you are already inherently worthy.
boom. I like that a lot.
Do you like? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, damn, I didn't know you'd already schematized this, Reese. No, I think
we're working on it. We're working on it.
No, I mean, the way you expressed it is like so concise and clear, and I'm like, yes, exactly that. The only one I have a question about, though, I think it was the fourth one, where it's like, that purpose, like the relationship of purpose with value, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm assuming by that you didn't mean like value in terms of like good or bad, like ethical good or bad, or?
Yeah. What I was trying to get at with that was to really exist outside of the like productivity schema of capitalism. That like,
yeah,
you don't need to produce something out of it. So maybe there's another way to frame that in terms of like, it just is, or like it's creatively expansive as opposed to productive.
yeah.
So maybe if you have any ideas about a different way to frame that I'm all ears.
Could you read the fourth one again?
Yes. So I said false purpose has to be productive, and true purpose exists outside of value of being good or bad. So it's certainly like,
yeah,
I think it tends towards like ethically like quote unquote good, but I think I'm trying to remove it from this idea that like
you're good in virtue of being productive, and you're bad in virtue of not being productive.
And this thing of like existing outside of money too is part of it, and that like if you want to make it a business, like how you sell your paintings and I do Cohere, like that is not like you're allowed to do that, but you don't have to in order for it to be purpose, because I think sometimes that's a lie you're also sold, that it's like, well, and if you figure out that, I'll use you as an example, like artistry is your thing and painting is your thing, then that has to become your entire life, and you need to be a painter and that needs to be the whole thing that you do. And it's like, well, hang on. There's also a way to engage with your purpose that isn't, I'm an independent artist and that's the only thing I do and that's my livelihood too. Like it can be, there's different ways to engage. So
I mean, this ties into this. We always gotta bring it back to Heidegger, you know. But like, this is
our good friend.
Our good friend. This is an idea there too. I mean, I think it was William Blattner, it's like a Heidegger scholar. I think he was the one who kind of described it in this way of like inauthenticity. Like, let's take a professor for example. Like like being a professor isn't automatically like authentic just because like you initially decided to pursue it authentically, because like authentic Dasein, or like the mode of being we have as human beings, is like it's always a not yet. Again, the kind of like incompleteness, always notness, you know. But I think the idea there that I do actually really like is like just being like, I've chosen authentically to pursue a career as a professor. And then once you reach that point, like if you just sit in that and kind of stagnate in that, even if maybe you feel like, this might not be for me, and I don't really feel like I'm flourishing like I expected I would. But like the fear of pursuing an alternative, or like pursuing purpose in a new way that's been presented to you, just because it's like, well, but I've attained this, you
But
know?
this is yeah.
Then it becomes inauthentic, like as a sort of like sinking back and like stagnating into something that once may have been an authentic pursuit. And
Yeah.
I do like that, and I can't remember which of the points you wrote about that, but kind of like purpose is like ever evolving with
Yeah.
me in virtue of like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, like it's fixed versus ever evolving. And I think for me with that one, it's also, I completely agree with what you said, where it's like, for me, like acting is a really good example for that, where when I first started performing, it was absolutely this like authentic expression and manifestation of this calling that I'm talking about. But eventually it became a way to perform the purpose instead of
Mm-hmm.
evolving alongside it. And I think that oftentimes we're told once you find your purpose, your job is now to climb the stairs, push the boulder up the hill until you check the box. And that
Yeah.
purpose is this like somehow achievable thing, and you did
Yeah.
it. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't be like, cool, purpose done, checked. It's like, then going back to some of the other stuff we've talked about before, like in the true existentialist philosophical sense, if you have checked the box of purpose, what is the point of continuing to live? There isn't one.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we still feel the drive to live, and it's because purpose is not a box to be checked. And that's why I
Reese,
think
that
it
is such a
has to
mic drop.
evolve, right?
That is
Oh,
such a mic
thank
drop.
you.
But I thought it was funny because you were asking like, oh, let me know if you have a better way of expressing it. First of all, I think the way you express it is very, I like it.
Thank you.
But this is how I this is how I tried to express it,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's better. This is from Tuesday, but I said, like back in winter when I was really unhappy, the conclusion I reached as to the question of why I was unhappy despite doing like studying philosophy and painting and stuff, and like I should have been happy, was
Mm-hmm.
that I was animating my life like a corpse. That's the
Yes.
phrase I used. And I was like, yes, this is such a good way of expressing it. Like I felt like I was like catching up to the idea of my life and like performing the idea of my life, like performing the pressure to perform my purpose as you described it, which I really like that. But then on Tuesday I realized like it's not even like the problem is not that you were animating your life like a corpse. The problem was slash is that you feel this phantom necessity to have the puppet do a whole little song and dance. Life is not
Whoa.
life is not a stage, it's a soup, and we're already in it.
I want that tattooed. Life is not a stage, it's a soup. I want that tattooed.
See, we need merch, Reese.
We need merch. We need merch.
Even if it's just for you and me.
I know.
I
We
also
just
want
need
that
to make-
shirt.
I just need to get a cricket and make us silly t-shirts.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Life
But
is not a
that's,
stage, it's a soup.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I really love that. And I think too, like, so many thoughts just occurred to me, but the one that's kind of bouncing around in my head is like, of course, the Shakespearean line, like, all the world is a stage and the men and women but merely players. But I
Yeah.
heard an analogy used the other day to discuss intersectional feminism, about how, like, when you go to see a show on a stage, you see the actors performing, and when you stand as an audience member and clap at the end, you clap for the actors, the performance that you see. And of course, the actors typically do the like gesture to the orchestra and gesture to the lights and everything. But you don't see the stage manager, you don't see the director, you don't see the lighting tech, you don't see the designers, you don't see the stunt choreographer. You know, like there's so many things happening behind the scenes that even the small like final picture being the thing applauded, even when we do our best to acknowledge all of these things, I think it just makes me think very much of how you phrased it. Like, life is not a stage. It is the entirety of the crew putting up this entire work, and it's about the process of creating something in community with other people, even if the thing that's applauded at the end are the actors giving a bow, but that the actors applauding and giving the bow is the same thing as like just checking the box, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the soupiness is staying up till 3 a.m. with your castmates, like talking
Yeah.
about your relationship, or meeting with the costumer to figure out like how a different color palette could reflect like this certain character arc, or
Yeah.
however
Yeah.
you wanted to go into it. And I just really like how you said that like life isn't just a stage. And I think so many of us live life like it is. And I think when I
Yeah.
feel deeply unhappy, I agree completely with you. It is when I am forcing myself to perform what I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to look like, even
Me
if
too,
it's
man.
partially like what we're socialized and conditioned to think life is supposed to look like, but also what I tell myself life is supposed to look like, you know?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to just be external pressures or expectations, you
yeah.
know? Like um and like for me it was most obvious like back last winter when I'm like I'm doing exactly what I set out to do. I'm studying in Germany, the country I wanted to live in. I'm studying philosophy in Germany. And I'm painting, I'm like selling my art sometimes. Like so I'm like, why am I so unhappy? And it's because like I was I was uh like the idea of my life, I was like acting it out like a persona. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what was supposed to make me happy. And it's so interesting too, because like having that sort of frankly radical mindset shift doesn't necessitate like a complete 180 in terms of
Right.
like how you're actually living your life. Like it's like the Buddhist idea of like before enlightenment chopping wood and then after chopping wood, which is an idea you've brought up a couple times.
Yeah, I love that proverb.
It really is just the same. I mean, for me with my recent realization, part of it has been like exposure therapy to like stop writing it in your planner and just go ask the ceramic people since you're literally right there, you know? Um, and like especially with social stuff, kind of choosing to be a little bit more socially unaware in terms of like not being like, oh my gosh, no, it'd be so awkward if I like asked this group chat if they want to do a reading group about phenomenology or something. No, that'd be so awkward because like what if nobody wants to and then you look stupid? Like just trying to be a little bit more socially unaware about those things and just
Like,
focus on like what is it that you ultimately want to do? Like if
yeah.
you want to stop complaining and lamenting about like how lonely you are, then like go do something about it instead of like being upset that you're lonely or uh being too nervous to actually change it, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Um
and how often does like our own internal dialogue about how the thing we want we actually don't subconsciously deserve, or how this thing we want we're actually not capable of doing,
yeah.
is actually the thing that's keeping you from the thing that you want, right?
Yeah,
That
it's
it's
nothing
like,
outside. It's not the people, you know, it's yeah. And like I do
yeah.
think that comes from like this internalized idea that like life is a stage, but like I'm the one on stage and I'm also the only audience member.
Yeah.
And I'm a very
Yeah.
judgmental audience member. And
Yeah, being your harshest critic as opposed to like your front row standing O. Um, yeah. I think too with the like simple act of just shooting a text message to a group chat without trying to overthink it. One, like you said, all of this is easier said than done. It's not like you have this radical mindset realization and then you can completely embody it. Like,
yeah.
it takes practice to rewire those neural pathways and like remind yourself, this is what I'm choosing to believe and this is what I'm choosing to embody, because it is what I believe. It just may not be inherent and innate yet.
Yeah.
But I do think too that there is something to like you said, the exposure therapy of just do it. But I really like what you said about being socially unaware, that it's not that you're purposefully being like disrespectful of norms and mores unaware, but it's that you're being comfortable with not being like a perfect expert in something, or
Yeah.
you don't need every single like safety mechanism that you have in order to still do something, right? And it's like when I go into a party for the first time, it's like I'm usually much more prepared in that I definitely have like a gift for the host. I'm wearing the outfit that I feel the most comfortable in. I'm wearing comfortable shoes. I'm going to drive myself. I know that I'm going to bring a bottle of wine and I'm only going to have 2 glasses. And like, these are the like, you have your system to make sure that you are perfectly aware. You can control as much as you can control so that you can engage to the best of your ability. And on one hand, it's like, great, do what you need to do to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, how much of those things do you actually need? Or are they just crutches that it's like, Reese, if you just walked in, it'd be fine.
Yeah, wear
like,
those
you would be
stilettos.
fine.
Wear those 6-inch stiletto heels.
Wear those 6-inch heels, diva.
Take a horse-drawn carriage. Who cares?
That's so funny. Take pulls from the tequila bottle all night.
Yeah.
But it's like, obviously kind of a silly example, but I just like the way that you framed that, because it's like
being comfortable with like things, like with not having everything, like being comfortable with the unexpected and being comfortable with like, I might not know exactly like how this situation could play. I mean, with like parties, like I think that's like, yeah, you probably want to be like, okay, I'll go at this time. I don't know. Like,
yeah, there's certain things that it's just like respectful to prepare for, right?
Yeah.
But I think the intent behind what you said kind of sparked for me is this idea of like, you don't have to be in control of everything in order for it to be a beautiful, spontaneous experience. And also, how much more could you get out of something if you're not in control of it? And how much less energy could that actually take if you didn't belabor yourself over doing it and you just did it? It's kind of the whole like, if you need to call the doctor, just call the doctor instead of waiting 3 weeks to do it, you know?
No, literally, like, that's exactly what I've been doing. Like, I think we talked about this last week, too. Like, okay, I need to call the doctor. So you write it in your planner. You don't do it that day. You cross it out. You write it in the next day. And it just happens every day. And, like, I've been really trying to... And this might also be, like, a little bit of an ADHD thing where it's, like, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
So, like, as soon as I think, like, oh, I should do that, or, oh, I need to do that, if it's something as simple as like a phone call or email, I've really been trying to just like, let's do it, man.
Just do it. Yeah.
And I wonder too, like, because like you grew up acting and I grew up dancing, and like I feel like I'm really happy that I grew up in dance, because I feel like it did give me like really good spatial awareness and it allowed me to develop certain skills that I doubt I would have had otherwise. But it kind of does make me think like, people who grow up performing, like, does that put you at a higher disposition to develop this sort of hyper social awareness to the point where it's like not always super useful, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just like a speculation of like, I like growing up in dance, you know, you have to think about where you are in the space, how close you are to other people, if you are like what you're doing is uniform with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like I think for a certain point in my life it definitely heightened the spotlight effect that like everyone kind of has, where it's like, people are looking at me, because it's like I'm already thinking of myself in relation to the other people in the space. Yeah. Yeah,
I think
maybe you don't relate to that, but I was just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I think I do, but in maybe a slightly different way, because I think, like I remember when I danced when I was little, us doing a run through of one of our competition routines that we had to do with our eyes closed, because our
Why?
instructors were like, you need to be able to do this with your eyes closed and not like
That's
run into anyone, which I was like, this just
fucking
seems
stupid. That's
dangerous.
stupid.
And we're 7.
Okay,
Like,
Abby Lee Miller, what the
no,
fuck?
literally
Competition dance is
but
a crazy
it's
world.
insane. So there is, I think, like
That's
one of the things
actually
that,
crazy.
right? I think one of the things that did come up for me was like how much of that hyper awareness of like the social environment and like hyper vigilance is from the medium of dance or acting in and of itself, or the environment that surrounds those things. And I think it is both, because there's a reason why like the performance industries and art industries breed a lot of like mental health concerns and like body image stuff. Like, because of the expectations placed on especially young women. But I do think there is that is just like cultural within these environments. But I think you're absolutely onto something too, that is like when you're dancing, not only are you training yourself to be hyper aware of your body and how it exists in relationship to literally everything else, but you're constantly looking at yourself, because there is always a mirror.
At least one. If one wall isn't covered with a mirror, then like sometimes it's like 2 or 3.
2 or 3, yeah. And the thing with acting too, this is a little bit different from my experience than maybe some other people's experience with acting, but with camera and film work, the way that you train camera and film is you record yourself and then you watch it back. In any like on-camera class that I ever did, because film was what I was passionate about more so than stage, you're similarly to dance, but in a different way. You're looking at yourself constantly. You're constantly seeing yourself, because that's part of what you have to do to hone the skill, to hone the craft. But it literally trains you to be hyper judgmental of yourself, to constantly be searching for flaws in specifically how you look, because especially with dance, it's like the literal shape that your body is making, right? So you can absolutely see how that relates to some of those like mental health things, and how all of that is like all interwoven. But also, like, I remember in dance or in acting, when like someone is being used as an example of them having done something really well, or this person did this poorly and we don't want to do that. And it sets up this, like, I need to be aware of everything that I am doing, every small inflection on my face that could communicate, like, uncertainty, or a spark of hope, or a glint of something in my eye, or even the timing of, like close-ups, like, the art of a close-up, and, like, the timing of, like, slow look up versus, like, that. And even those little changes being, like, so specific. But it's the same thing in dance, like the difference in like a straight hand and then like the ballet hand, or like where your thumbs placed. Like,
it is different though, and I've never thought about that. But like with dance, the sort of self, like hyper vigilance and like self checking of like, what am I doing with my arm? Like, is my like torso in alignment or whatever? Like, it's kind of an instant feedback. I mean, there were times where like we would film the routine and watch it back and like see, you know, but I never really thought about that, especially like with close-ups and stuff, like thinking about it on such a like small level of like, like maybe I could like twitch the corner of my mouth, or like, you know, like such small changes that like that seems almost more stressful than being like, oh, my rib cage is like out of alignment, like, versus like, oh, my maybe if I raised my eyebrow like just like that. No, that's too much.
Right.
Like,
I do think
I can't even raise it a little bit.
Right. I do think it's interesting how both train you to check. Right? Which the thing, as you were just talking, I was like, yeah, Absolutely. And what do I do when I'm anxious in social situations, or I'm like, oh, all my friends hate me, or, when anxiety is talking and you do the whole thing, it's like I go up to them and I'm like, we're good, right? You're not mad at me, right? That's in my head, right?
Yeah, you
And
check.
then you check. And it's
Mm.
like, I want the mirror. I want to check. I
Oof.
want to
Oh, that
see.
kind of
And
gave me chills.
I'm like, I
That's
wonder if part of that is like how I'm trained to get better in
yeah.
these art forms that we have is
Hmm.
also like how I learned to improve anything.
Yeah, you want to
Um,
find a mirror in something, even if it's not like in the dance studio or like filming
yeah,
the scene that you're practicing.
yeah,
That's really interesting. And like, I mean, I think it's good to have metrics of improvement, even though like purpose isn't something that you need to achieve. And I do really like that idea. But like, there are like, there's a reason why making to-do lists is helpful
yes,
because like, um, like those little tasks are part of it. Me selling my art, like part of that is like doing the annoying stuff of like researching opportunities and like applying to stuff, which can be kind of boring and mind numbing sometimes.
yeah,
Um, but like there's a reason you add that to your to-do list. And it's not
totally.
for the sake of checking that off the to-do list. But it's for the sake of actually making the things that matter to you achievable.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, again, it's like it's a mindset shift and not so much a shift in like necessarily what you're actually doing. But
yeah,
I'm trying to think like this is something I'll have to reflect on. But like which mirrors are actually beneficial to me? Like which
yeah.
like, you know,
Well,
sort of like progress checking mirrors in terms of like my goals in life are useful to me and which ones are more detrimental and like self judgmental.
totally. Yeah, because there is like one thing my mom says a lot is like judgment in and of itself isn't a bad thing. We use our judgment every day. You judge are you going to make it through the yellow light, right? Like we use our judgment all the time. Judgment is a tool. We just
Absolutely.
often wield it in a harsh or negative way against ourselves and others. And I completely agree with what you're saying. And I think that really highlights something that we both agree with that is like existing in the soup of life is not to say you're not achieving anything. Exactly like you said earlier. It's not to take away the idea of like moving towards something, but it's to remove the pressure of it so that your journey there can be organic and expansive, not shame ridden and
Yeah.
pressurized. Um, but I wonder the thought that occurred to me as you were talking about that with like which what
What?
mirrors are productive mirrors. I think hearing you talk about the way that you feel in your body and like in your life, that it's like I felt like I was animating a corpse. Like that's not a good feeling versus like I want to feel expansive. Like it's hard to know the self and know what feels good in your body, but to me that sounds like a really beautiful mirror that you've like honed within your own sense of who you are, that it's like okay, well we can check in like here. I can check in my heart. I can check in my gut. Like those are things that mirror back to
Yeah.
me that it can be hard to know if they're, at least for me with like anxiety and OCD, and like my mind likes to lie to me a lot, and if you have a lot of like anxiety or trauma still stored in the body, it can be not only really hard to trust your body but also like an untrustworthy thing until you undo a lot of stuff through like somatic work. Like this is a really layered process, but I do
Yeah.
think once you have hit a relationship with your body where you can trust it, like I don't know, just hearing you talk about your journey to these realizations as an outsider hearing you discuss it feels like you found a really beautiful, productive mirror for yourself within the self.
Sometimes I mean, sometimes that's the goal, but again, it's
Right.
with these sort of realizations like like I said, the animating a corpse thing, that was something that I realized last winter, like almost a year from now. And although it was helpful for me at the time, just having that like epiphany of like, oh my gosh, like that doesn't always guarantee that that's the end of it, you know? Like
Right.
that could just be the beginning of this ongoing realization of like, oh wait, the way I've been defining meaning and purpose in my life is very much like tied into like productivity and like sort of this isolating compulsion towards doing things and achieving things
Yeah.
that actually ultimately is not helping me achieve
Right.
what will actually make my life feel meaningful.
Yeah.
And so and also, yeah, like you said, it's just realizing it isn't always enough to change everything, especially when it comes to like habits that are pretty deeply ingrained in me that are sort of like these socially anxious avoidant tendencies of like, oh, I don't want to ask this question because I'm gonna look stupid and like,
Yeah.
or
They're gonna hate
so
me and punch me in my face and then throw me out on my ass.
yeah,
Like, your brain just jumps to all of the worst possible things that could happen, and it's
yeah.
like, okay, it's not gonna
Like,
happen.
I don't know if I told you this last week, but this was another instance where, like, I was like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Because, like, I went swing dancing. Did I tell you about this?
No, but that sounds
Yeah,
so fun. Oh my god, I
they,
want to go swing dancing with you.
I know they, in the summertime, oh my gosh, we have to. Next time we're in the same place, we have to go.
Okay.
But in Berlin during the summer, they have, like, swing dancing classes outside. And, like, I haven't been dancing really since a while, but I've been dancing since I could walk. And there was like in this particular place I had been to like two classes. I'd been to like a beginner's class, then I went to like an intermediate advanced class. And um this time I went by myself and I was so stupid, nervous and shy that like I was like, no, like maybe I should ask because like it is the intermediate advanced class and like, like maybe maybe like you won't know as much and so then like you're going to be a nuisance and like people won't be able to learn because you don't know what you're doing like it is a partner dance so like maybe I should. And so I stupidly asked the instructor, I was like, hey, I've only taken like one intermediate advanced, like would it be okay if I took this class? Like leaving out the fact that I've been dancing literally
Your
since I could
literal
walk.
entire life? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
you're literally classically trained.
Yeah. Like was on a company, like
Yeah. So, like, as
and,
professional dancing as professional can get.
well, maybe not that professional, but on a performing company, and yeah, and he was like, no, it's not a good idea, and obviously because I really I wasn't selling myself very well,
Right, right.
I was like, I don't know, I've never done like
Yeah, yeah.
and then I sat there and I was like, yeah, that was like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
That was like self-sabotage for sure because you're like nervous because at the beginning of the intermediate advance, they have to do like the freestyle and you're like nervous because you don't look stupid during the freestyle, do you? Like,
Yeah.
and so like I stayed past the class, like I just watched. And then after the classes, they have like a little dance party. And so I stayed for
Cute.
that and I danced a little bit because before I was like, dude, you brought that upon yourself. I was like, yeah, he's right. Like, it was good that I tried. Like, I checked that off the list and now I can go home. And then I was like, no, dude, like, you're not helping yourself by doing these kinds of
Yeah.
things. So, um, yeah, being less socially aware in that sense of
Right.
being like, don't work, like, everyone's just having fun. This is for having fun. It's not to perform. You're not
Yeah.
on like there's no proper audio. Like, there are people
Well,
watching because it's like, it's cool and exciting. Like, oh my gosh, swing dancing by the river, you know? So
dance party after.
that
The
was
other
too long
thing.
of the story, but
No, it wasn't. It was beautiful. And I love
thanks.
I love what you're saying about being socially unaware, like going into things not knowing. And I think that there is this pressure to like know as much as possible because we don't want to be a nuisance. We don't want to be an inconvenience. We don't want to put anyone out. But one thing my mom said to me the other day that's just really been like sitting on my heart, um, is it's not your job to make being around you convenient. it's not your job to make being your friend convenient. It's not your
Yeah.
job to make your life convenient. Like, you are a human
So
being
true.
that is loud, messy, particular, has hopes, dreams, wishes, and very specific little quirks that we all
Mm-hmm.
have. And no matter how convenient you try and make yourself, I am still going to have something that rubs someone the wrong way,
Yeah.
and it's just not going to work. Might
Yeah,
as
and
well
if you
fully embrace all of what that is. And
yeah.
also, like, I keep seeing a lot of stuff too about like building community and being a good village person. Like, everyone says they want a community, but no one's willing to do the work of being a community member. And it's like, being a community member is like being inconvenienced by people. Like, picking up
Yeah.
from someone from the airport isn't convenient,
Right.
but you do it because you love that person and you want them to see a friendly face when they land back home, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it's not convenient. And I think it's the same thing with like, yeah, saying where I want to go to dinner is maybe inconveniencing someone because now they have to deal with my opinion on top of theirs, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not my job to
Yeah.
prevent them from taking care of my feelings too. Like, that's inherently what being in relationships
Yeah.
is. And so I think there is a part of, not to give everyone a free pass to like fully revert back into being selfish.
Sure,
Of
yeah.
course, like, that's not what I'm trying to promote here, but what you're saying about like, well, I don't want to be a nuisance and like put people out. It's like, but also you're paying for a class.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're learning. So it like, if you were like both of us and like us having gone to school together, I know us, neither of us wants to be the worst student in the class. That would be my worst nightmare. But
that would literally be my worst.
I would
actually hell.
literally kill myself.
That
no,
sounds
I'm just
like
kidding.
my
I'm
own
just kidding.
personalized
But
hell. I could
one, impossible for you to be the worst student in a dance class, right? Like, I would just be floored if that
Depends on the
actually happened. They'd be
genre.
like, what kind of professional swing dancers are these? But two, even if you were, like, that's okay.
Yeah, it's
teachers'
okay to be the
jobs.
worst
It's
at
a
something if
class.
you're
Yeah,
learning, you know?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's something that I've struggled with too. Like, this, for me, it was less about like the fear of inconveniencing people. For me, it was more so like, if other people were upset about something, I felt like it was my responsibility to make them comfortable, like make them.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely got to be like a trauma thing, because like I noticed it was especially an issue with like men, even if it wasn't men that I was like dating, but anytime like a man was like, oh man, they're closed, now I have to find somewhere else to go, like I'd be like, hey, it's okay, like look,
Yeah.
you can go here. And like it's nice to be accommodating and helpful, but like for me it was coming from a place of like, I'm uncomfortable with this person showing like emotions that may be sort of unpredictable, you know? Like, I don't
Yeah.
really know how upset they are, you know?
Yeah.
And like for a while that made me really uncomfortable, but
Which I think in some ways is fair, especially like if it's a man that you don't fully know like super well and their behaviors. Like, at least for me as a woman,
yeah.
if I'm spending time with a man that I don't fully know and they do get angry, even if it's not at me, I mean, my hackles go up just from a safety perspective.
Hackles.
But my hackles. But I do think too, there is something to say like the trauma of being a fixer, right? That it's like, oh, everyone's dealing with their own stuff. I don't like how it feels when all these people that I love are overwhelmed. It's my job to try and put these pieces back together, or to make the unpredictable predictable by solving it.
Yeah, for me, no, I feel like for me it was, at least, this is not so much a problem now, but like when I realized it like a year or so ago, it was definitely like from a selfish place. It wasn't because I was like, oh, I really
Right.
care about this person and I don't want them to be upset. Like, it was definitely like, oh, this is unpredictable for me and I don't know how upset they are. And like, so I feel the need to like dispel
Resolve the tension.
Yeah, resolve the tension.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, if I really care about this person, this is not how I would be reacting, you know? And I was saying, like, I don't like, at that time, it was, like, like, resolving, like, trauma type stuff.
Right. Well,
So
and
that was
trauma
like,
is
I
such
get it.
a
I was protecting myself, so it's fine. But,
yes.
so I'm
And
not saying,
there's
like, "Oh, I need to, like, put this person, like, my love for them above my own feeling of safety." I'm not saying
right.
that. But, yeah, I don't know exactly what
Yeah.
I'm saying, but just, like, I don't know, like, putting the action before the self-reflection of the action. Like, putting the doing before checking in the mirror to see if it's right, you know? Because then it's
Yeah.
never gonna actually look right. Like, they always say, like like, if you're in ballet, for example, and you're, like, doing the routine, and let's say the mirror's over here, and if I'm, like, looking over here to make sure everything's looking right, then my head is, like, not, like, you know, like, in alignment with my arms the way it's supposed to be with, like, the positions, you know?
Yeah.
You're, like, disrupting the flow of the art that you
Mhm.
are trying to do
Yeah.
for the sake of checking if it looks okay.
Right.
And I feel
Yeah.
like that applies to, like, so many
Yeah.
dimensions of life.
I agree. It's like when you plant a seed, you can't dig it up every week to make sure it's growing. Like, you have to leave it
Yeah,
underground. And you
yeah.
don't know if it's sprouting or not until it breaks through the ground. But, like, you can't, digging it up isn't going to make
Can
it
you
grow.
imagine? That's such a
Right?
funny image.
Can
Be
you
like, "Let me just
imagine?
check."
Let me just make sure everything's going okay while I ruin the progress of
I'm,
everything.
like, tearing up the roots and the seeds like, "Yo, yo, hey, cut it out.
Hey, I'm working here.
I'm growing."
I'm growing here. But I don't know if maybe this is a good point to end on, but I had a thought as you were talking earlier about like the resolving the tension, and that just felt like such a beautiful encapsulation of so much of what we've talked about today. That like with the purpose piece and this quarter life crisis piece and engaging in community and wanting to like put yourself out there and move forward in life, so much of these things are really, I think what we're talking about is just being able to sit in tension so much of the time as opposed to needing to resolve it. And of course,
Yeah.
as human beings, we want to resolve the tension. We want to be out of it. We want things to be complete. Like inherently, our brains are completionist, right? But life in and of itself exists in tension because we are all going to die one day, right? Like we're all constantly moving towards entropy. Like life in and of itself is a paradox. So we really need to get comfortable with tension. And I think that's what living in the soup is, as opposed to pushing the boulder up. Like it's harder to do that because you can't just check a box, but it's sitting in the tension of the fact that your purpose is ever evolving, that
Mm,
meaning is always being made, that it's not going to be done. And I think too, one thing I've been hearing a lot recently that I think is really profound in terms of relationships is if someone's upset at you, oftentimes those of us that are nice, good, kind people that are at least somewhat like emotionally intelligent want to talk about it and then have a conversation and apologize and solve it. It's like, okay, well, if you're upset at me, let's repair so that we can move forward and resolve the tension, you know?
yeah.
And it's like, well, hang on. Just because you apologized about something that you did wrong doesn't mean that everything's fine now. That
Mhm.
person is going to need some time to be upset at me if I
Yeah.
said something that hurt their feelings. And even though that's really uncomfortable for me to sit there, knowing that they're not going to text me for the next few days, knowing that I'm not going to hear from them, knowing that they're mad at me, and knowing that there's nothing I can do about it, it doesn't mean I'm losing them. It doesn't mean that they are never
Mm,
going to talk to me again. It doesn't mean that my life is over. It means that they are processing so that when we do have that conversation, the repair is healthier and our relationship will be stronger because of it and we can move forward. And my inability to hold that tension would be at a detriment, not just to our relationship, but to that person's growth process and like
yeah.
emotional processing. And yeah, so all that to say, I just think all of these things really can go back to and sitting in the unknown of the social environments too, right? Like
Yeah,
that is being in
absolutely.
tension and wanting to go into it having as much information as possible, is trying to resolve as much tension as you can before you enter. And again, there's not something inherently wrong with that desire, but I think paying attention and being aware of where it's stopping us short of living
Yeah.
fully and wholly. And, you know, people say awareness is the first step to solving it, right? And like you said earlier, awareness isn't the whole battle, though. And I don't think it's just like awareness of the instance of the issue one time, and then you're pretty much good. It's like, no, when people say awareness is pretty much the whole battle, they mean every single time you go to repeat that pattern, calling in awareness to the thing. Not once. But if
Every
I'm
time.
trying to fix being a people pleaser, it's not just like, oh, I am a people pleaser. I'm aware of it now. Cool.
And you
It's
know
like,
what? That's uncomfortable. Like,
yeah.
the moment of being like, I know it sounds so little, but being like, just go ask the ceramic studio. Like,
Yeah.
that's
But it's
uncomfortable. Like, walking in there as like a stranger and being like, hello, like, and
especially in a
like
strange
people look at
country.
me like, you know, like that is uncomfortable, but like,
Yeah.
pushing past that and like, like realizing like what moments of tension would it be beneficial for me to sit in and like push through and rather than like dispelling and like settling, you know? Um, yeah. You're always so
Yeah.
good at synthesizing these conversations. Like, I'm just like, oh, here's a twig here, here's a twig there. And at the end, you're always like, and I was also thinking, here's the trunk and the roots. And I'm like, damn, I didn't even think about that.
A tree would be nothing without its branches. The branches are what
And it'd be
grow
nothing without
up
the roots and
into
trunk.
into the sky and expand.
But Reese, the twigs can't grow without the roots and the trunk.
I don't care about roots if there's no branches. Both are just as important.
And this is why we don't dig up the seed before it grows.
And that's so that we can have all
then you
of
can't
it.
have the twigs, you can't have branches, nor can you have a trunk or roots.
Exactly. Let the seed grow, y'all.
Yep.
Well, this was awesome.
So fun.
Like maybe one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Like truly this like brought up a lot for me too, that it's like, yeah, I do need to work on that. I do need to think more about that.
Aww.
So
but you're doing great.
Thank you for bringing this up, and you too, and for being vulnerable about it. And
yeah, likewise.
Not just with me, but like publicly on the internet.
I feel like I've just become more like for the first while that we did the podcast, like the fact that it's being recorded was very like I was hyper aware of it in a way that wasn't like helpful, like the topic of today's conversation. But after a while I was like, I'm just talking with Reese for an hour or so. And it's so fun to get to like talk to you about all these things.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
This my favorite part about why we do it is that I get to spend time with you.
Aw, likewise.
Yeah. Well,
cool.
Thank you, listeners, for being here and spending time with us as well. Let us know what you think. Are you going through a quarter-life crisis?
Please share your crises.
Say your crises at the crises hive rise up.
Quarter-life crises hive rise up.
If you grew up dancing or acting or performing at all, are these experiences you relate to?
I'm curious.
What elements of community or purpose or resolving tension are you working on? And any philosophical or artistic relevance to that, like definitely share with us in the comments. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you for being here. You're welcome.
Hello.
Goodbye.
It's not Sunday.
It's not Sunday.
And you're welcome.
You're welcome.
The Unwritten Aesthetic is a bi-weekly podcast from the Cohere Collective that features philosophical artist or artistic philosopher Lauren Bush and question asker and meaning maker Reese Brown. Please subscribe to The Unwritten Aesthetic wherever you may be listening, and if you enjoyed the episode, consider leaving us a like, a 5-star rating, and or a review. And sharing the episode is a really wonderful way to kickstart meaningful conversations in your own life. If you want to stay up to date on all things the Unwritten Aesthetic, you can follow the Cohere Collective on any social media platform at the Cohere Collective, and check out our other content and offerings at thecoherecollective.com. To explore Lauren's work, head to laurenbushpaints.com and follow her on Instagram and YouTube at laurenbushpaints. If you're interested in working with Reese to find and pursue your purpose, head to thecoherecollective.com to explore life coaching options. A huge thank you to Jack Corbett for the Unwritten Aesthetics music, and thank you all for being here today and exploring the Unwritten Aesthetic with us. As always, we hope you feel like you are living more coherently. Until next time, love.